utterly charming, and completely inoffensive. Those are my honest opinions and my exact words coming out of my session playing Craft Hero. Craft Hero is a self-proclaimed survival crafting game which aims to give the chilled-out experience from other crafting games like Minecraft and Stardew Valley, but focus more on the combat and base management aspects of these games. Worth noting is that this is a demo that you can download right now for free. As a side note, I want to point out how much I love the indie scene and how it seems to be going back to that old school day of a playable demo. Still not quite as exciting as opening up your copy of official Xbox magazine, and yes, I grew up on the OG big chungus black Xbox, but let's be honest, those days are, for better or worse, long gone. Overall, the concept is incredibly satisfying, allowing you to relax and not really have to dedicate too much effort to what you're doing. Now, I've been playing the demo for a few hours, and I've got to admit, I think the most glaring issue is that it feels like you can get a large chunk of the game just through the demo. As issues go, it's certainly an interesting one to have. What you'll find is as you play through the demo that most of the content is just there, as opposed to other indie game demos where you'll find that there's just a hard cap where it's like, right, you have finished the demo now. This game just kind of lets you keep playing it for as long as you like, and yes, you'll find here and there a few bits that will say future content on it, but it's really quite well polished for a demo, I've got to admit. The gameplay loop would be solid if there was a little more attention given to giving the player purpose. The overall loop would just be just a lot more engaging that way. A major issue with the demo as it stands is that there seems to be little reason to keep on progressing. My first thoughts coming out of my first run was that just the starting area was way too easy, giving a fully walled off area with turrets and allies ready to defend you as you learn the ropes. Crafting benches that are far beyond the scope of a starting character, and no real clear direction on how to kind of progress from that point. Even some of the research you'd have to do would be in order to unlock buildings you already had access to, which just seemed a little bit antithetical, really. It left you feeling a little bit aimless wandering through this turn-based environment, with not really a lot of idea about where to go to get the best resources, and what resources were available and what weren't. Which leads to another slight issue with the demo, and this will come up with the there is future content. It's not clear in your crafting menu's tooltips which items just don't exist at the moment. And I'm still not sure if there are items that exist and are just very hard to find, or if they are not in the game, but there are certainly some that don't exist at the moment, because I've been in the Discord and seen people talking about it. And that's really annoying as a player who's trying to work out whether the game is fun or not, is just trying to work out whether I'm being stupid and can't find things, or if they just aren't there. The ease of the starting area was also compounded by the relative slowness of the game. I feel that with a higher difficulty, I wouldn't have been wandering aimlessly, wondering where the next Horde Knight would come, and wondering if there was any reason to stand back from enemies. As the game continued, I found that some of these issues were alleviated, with the hordes becoming more challenging, and there being a little bit more resource gathering required. That being said, this was all very surface level, so I do look forward to seeing that the full release does in terms of expanding on this mechanic. Side note, since writing that part of the review, I have found a boss fight, and I'm sorry to say that I stood in a corner being attacked by the boss and two of its allies and still managed to kill the boss. I did later die to the last enemies in there, but realistically a boss fight should be a lot harder than sitting there being wailed on while you shoot with a bow at point blank range. On the topic of gameplay, it does seem impossible to escape the truth that the mechanics in the game do seem to conflict with the overall concept. Craft Hero goes to great lengths to inform the player that it is a survival sandbox game. However, it does miss the mark on its survival mechanic with its incredibly generous death mechanic, in which nothing is lost apart from a little bit of XP, basically. So you don't level up quite as much, but other than that, your whole risk versus reward is completely skewed, but not in reward's favor, because there's not really that much of a reward either. It's one of those games where you just kind of feel like you're going through the motions a little bit with it, which again could be fixed in a future release. It's possible that as updates come through, there'll be more things to strive towards, and I really hope they sort out the death mechanics, because it's not that engaging to just sit there and wait for the next Horde Night, where you may or may not win or lose, but it doesn't really matter because you don't lose anything even if you die anyway. Aesthetics and audio. When it comes to aesthetics, this is a very common one nowadays. The retro style, while a little tired and overdone, is pretty serviceable and makes sense for Craft Hero, but it's not going to win any awards for creativity. Audio likewise is perfectly serviceable, not as egregious as other games I've played. For a demo, it certainly works and doesn't detract from the experience. I would imagine in the full release we will see some dynamic audio added to reinforce what's going on the screen. Some sort of audio feedback to tie into the survival mechanics would also be really beneficial, as if you're not paying attention, it is incredibly easy to get yourself killed through starvation. Not that food is ever something I'm lacking in terms of my inventory, but sometimes you just don't notice the bar at the top going down to 0, and wandering aimlessly around the map. I accrued about 200 different items of food, about 150 turnips and 50 pumpkins or something along that line. You know, it wasn't difficult, and that is more than enough to keep you alive for quite a while. There is a cooking mechanic, but at this point, it just doesn't seem necessary with the amount of raw ingredients you can find lying around. My final thoughts are that I actually highly recommend trying out the demo for this game. At worst, you've got the whole experience for free, and at best, you've had the taste of a really chilled indie game, and you can wait with curious anticipation for what's to come. So in conclusion, pick up the demo. It's free. What more could you ask for? It's free. You are literally losing nothing but potentially a little chunk of your time. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to stay tuned on the Maladek the Wizard channel for some more content to come. We've got a few reviews in the pipeline, hopefully coming out pretty soon, so I hope you've enjoyed yourself here, and that you check out Craft Hero. It's a really chill experience, if a little bit rough around the edges. Thank you very much, and goodbye.